Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bergen Stages, our entertainment magazine here at Bergen Community College, where we take a backstage look at some of the shows that are happening on our campus. Today, we are featuring backstage of A Man For All Seasons, and I'm pleased to have with us in our studio two of the most important parts of this show, our director, Tom O'Neill, and our lead character, actor, L.J. Hickman. So welcome, guys. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Our audience loves to know a little bit of the backstage kind of things that are going on before we talk about what's happening right now in rehearsals. So I'm going to start with Tom, just to talk a little bit about the show, some of the background of the show, the history of it, the story.
The story takes place in the 14th century. It's about King Henry VIII, and he was, at that time, he was married to Catherine of Aragon, and he wanted to divorce her and marry Anne Boleyn. And the Pope at that time said no. So he decided to break away from the Pope and the church and create his own religion and marry Anne Boleyn. And anyone who disagreed with him would get their head chopped off. And in this case, Thomas More, who is played by LJ, got into a bit of, you might say, some political trouble with the king. He was actually a very good friend of the king's for years. They wrote a book together. They really had a very...
He was his chancellor? Or
he was the,
right.
the Lord Chancellor.
Lord Chancellor, right.
After
right.
Cardinal Wolsey died.
Right.
And
a very devout Catholic.
Very devout Catholic. Was well known all over Europe, actually, for being a devout Catholic. And the Spaniards at the time, who the father of Catherine of Aragon was the King of Spain, so he did not want Henry to divorce his daughter. That would have not looked good politically. And Spain had a lot of influence over the Pope at that time, so that sort of all dovetailed.
Right.
And it ended up that More, who was very influential with the Spanish, he ended up losing his head over the whole thing because he stuck to his guns. He would not conform. All of the English people had to take an oath at that time to conform to what the king wanted.
Right.
And More said, no, I'm not going to do that. But really, in the end, it was because of the divorce that he believed that it was wrong, and went to his death over it.
With his strong belief. And what's interesting is, so this is kind of the whole background of the life at that time was going on with Henry and More, but this play really kind of focuses on just a certain segment of that life together.
Yeah.
So it's like the last year, or?
Yeah, it's the last couple of years. Yeah, it's sort of a Reader's Digest version of what happened over a longer period of time, but Thomas More ends up in jail for, I think it was a year, and before he was actually put to death. And they didn't really have a case against him, so they had to fabricate a case. And our production actually is, hopefully, is sort of modeled around this whole idea of conspiracy. That Cromwell, Thomas Cromwell, not to be mixed up with Oliver Cromwell, but he was a pretty evil guy too. And he was the king's henchman, and he sort of set this whole myth in motion that Thomas More had committed perjury. So that didn't actually work out in court. So they lost that part of the case, and then they started to build another case in which he actually said something against the king, and he used Richard Rich, who was a friend of Thomas More's, to actually set the whole thing up in court. And he perjured himself, Richard Rich, and he lied that Thomas More had said something treasonous about the king, which he did not do. And as a result of that, I mean, they were going to kill this guy, unfortunately.
Yeah, just anyway, they looked at it. They were just looking for the outlet.
They were looking for a reason.
And there's so many parallels to contemporary politics. It's unbelievable. So, but we'll get to that now, hopefully, in just a second. But let me just turn to LJ. What is it like to embody such a character like Sir Thomas More?
A challenge. This is somebody who lived, who has been seen throughout the ages as a symbol of sticking to your morals, your principles. It's been a good trip.
Oh, good. So far, and we're just
yeah.
on. We're just heading down the path, still continuing on that. But yeah, cool. And I know that you've done a couple of shows here at Bergen, so you're not a newcomer to our stage, and it's great to have you back. You were in last season's As You Like It,
Yes.
which of course is Shakespeare, which is about 100 years around the same time.
Right.
But the language is completely different.
Yes, it's easier to embody this.
This one. So it isn't that Elizabethan English, it is a much more contemporary type dialogue, and so it lends itself.
Yeah, you might actually think of it as a classical play because it touches upon a classical period. We think of it as a classical period, but it's contemporary. It was written in the 50s, I think, and
so too, yeah.
produced in this 1960. So the language is much more contemporary.
It's kind of like Lion in Winter.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a period play, but
Yeah.
it was written contemporary, so you don't have the which can be sometimes cumbersome, the Elizabethan English, so you don't have that going. So you're enjoying it so far.
I am. It's I love being under Tom. Tom is he's been great with me, like helping me embody this character for my own life. We've been researching things like that, and I think it's going to go over well.
Great. And what kind of research do you have to do? We're lucky to have you here because we normally don't get the actor. I love having Tom here, but it's great to have the actor as well. And our audience aren't familiar with what the actor has to go through. They think learn lines, get up there, say them, and don't run into the furniture. But there's a little bit more research going on. Have you been learning more about Sir Thomas More, other than what's in the script itself?
Yes, I actually have made my own collage of him with a picture and just like putting things that I think relates to him. I do what everybody else does. I Google. Google them, read his story. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Tudors.
Sure.
Read his books. I read part of Utopia to try to get an insight into his mind of what his dreams and aspirations were.
What an amazing man he is.
So, yes,
Total amazing
very
man.
amazing.
Yeah, what a mind.
And I think he'd be somebody that we can follow today, a role model of kind of like an after-school special, like somebody who sticks to their guns. They don't falter to peer pressure. It's standing true to your beliefs.
He was a man of conviction.
He was, and it's hard to find that today, somewhat, to find someone so
Yeah,
strong
we
with
need
conviction.
people like that.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We need leadership like that.
And I think that's why you do a show like this over and over, just saying we're still looking for these people. These people are good people, and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a great selection. I mean, it's something that you might not typically see at a community college, but I think it's the kind of material that, because it does have a classical feel to it as well as a contemporary feel, it gives an actor a chance to, explore areas that they might not otherwise do. Yeah.
And so now you're in the midst of this rehearsal process, putting it up on its feet. What are the challenges that you're facing right now in the rehearsal process?
Yesterday we had what we call a stumble through, the first act. And, there's the typical actors forgetting their lines at this point.
Just for those that don't know, a stumble through means this is the first time you've put it on the feet, the actors have rehearsed it, you've worked through moments that you want, and now you're saying, okay, let's try to do the whole thing.
Yeah, you've pretty much
stopping.
blocked everything, and so all the actors sort of know where to move on the set, but you're still tweaking things here and there, and trying to clarify motivation, why I'm doing this, what is it that I want, what is my objective in the scene, what is my relationship to this other actor, and we have in LJ a gifted actor, has a wonderful voice, a great emotional life, and he, I would say, yesterday was, there were moments where I sat there and just thought, this is really going to be something special.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
great.
As much as, it was, people not showing up for rehearsal, which sometimes happens, with a cast of such, I think we have, 15, 16 people.
It's a large cast, so it's just trying to get everybody at the same place at the same time, and that's always a challenge with jobs. Being a commuter college, we run in this all the time with night classes, so it is a challenge for a director to try to get everybody together. But you've been rehearsing days, evenings, weekends, so you're in a good place at this point, moving along. And if you're stumbling through of Act One, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of scenes in this play, aren't there, LJ?
There's 7 in the first act. right? 6 and 7.
Something like that.
Yeah,
And then 7,
yeah.
and then 9 at the end.
I think so.
A lot of different locations.
Right. It's I mean, you want me to talk about the set? The way
You can
it's-
talk about anything you want.
You can talk about anything. Yeah, Mike is coming in to talk about the actual physical set, but you're certainly more than welcome about how an
How it
actor
works
has
for
to
you.
relate to it and how
Yeah.
it works. So is there any...
Well, right now we're dealing with the tape. We're imagining
Yeah.
the
Again, for the
level.
audience that don't know, we tape everything on the floor where it's
Right.
going to be, so you have to picture that's where it is.
Yes, and it's just imagining that part, which is we're still, the stumbling creates the awkwardness, but when it comes out, the way the set is built on so many levels, you can read into the levels of, how
Who's gonna be where.
who's going to be where, who's,
There's a power trip to a certain extent.
yeah, to a
What
certain
level
extent,
you
right.
were on
Yeah.
and where,
Right.
that's...
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It gives a kind of a feel of, who's in charge. Like that scene with Henry, how high he is over everybody
Yeah.
in a way. So kind of represents his power in a way.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's,
We had, in the end, excuse me, Thomas ends up, we've given away the ending already, so we can actually say that he ends up on the highest platform, which we've been calling the chopping block,
Okay.
because it's where he actually gets
Truly
his,
will happen,
his
yeah,
head
yeah.
chopped off. But there are many levels to the set.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
And Mike is coming in to talk a little bit about that in just a moment. But I guess one thing that we need to also address is something that's called non-traditional casting. So we have just a couple of minutes to address that. And what non-traditional casting is, getting the right person for the part, not necessarily that we have to worry about the color of the skin. So it's really incredibly great opportunity for us to have an African-American actor, as talented as you are, playing the role of Sir Thomas More. So how do you feel about that? Do you have a, I mean, it's a challenge, but does it matter?
no.
Good.
I think that we all have the same experience one way or the other, no matter what your skin color is. And I don't know, I will let Tom talk about it more than me. It's an honor. It's an honor to me
Great.
personally, though.
I never even thought about it actually until, LJ came to me and said, I would like to audition for Thomas More. And I was thinking about him in another role. But I was like, yeah, I talked to the producer, Jim, and he said, let's go for it. And it's working out so wonderfully.
So it doesn't matter. It truly is. It's the talent that's up on the stage, and I think they're going to blow you away. But then this gets back into the first thing I brought up was talking about politically what's going on. In both of our political parties coming up for president right now, we have African Americans which are taking the lead here. So we've got Kane and we've got Obama. So it's really interesting to have an African American character, and we can look at the metaphor that's happening throughout this play. We talked about politically the message that's happening.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a terrific opportunity for us to have you here. And so now where do we go now in the next few weeks?
Well, we have a stumble through of the second act tonight, and on a Wednesday night we're going to have an actual stumble through of both acts again. And then we pull everything together more or less. We start to look at where we need a lot of work, and we do need a lot of work. We will get through everything, and then we go into
But there's plenty of
tech.
time right now, so
We
it's
have
just
lots of time.
yeah. And some incredible. Marie's going to be in just a little bit as well to talk about the costumes. So it's just an
Beautiful
incredible costume show. It's a wonderful costume period. So it's great to see all the bling, as it were, for all the characters to come
14th century
in.
bling.
14th century
15th
bling.
bling.
That's great. But you're rehearsing in these things too. You're wearing robes, and I know I peeked in at a rehearsal, just seeing everybody. It looked like a toga party. Just seeing everybody kind of in these robes all ready to rehearse. Is that something that an actor tends to do?
Yes, because the style of dress and in those times, I find it hard to walk in those long robes. Like I find myself pulling up my dress or my schmuck, trying to get up the stairs. I mean, you've seen it. I have like a Jesus Christ Superstar, like the golden thing going on. Joseph in the Technicolor coat.
But you need to learn to move around and to get up and down these steps with it. So
Right.
it's a challenge for you as the actor.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I cannot believe our time is already up, but I cannot thank you enough for being here to talk about this show. We're going to take a short break now. We'll be right back, and our special guests coming up will be our set designer and our costume designer, Mike Lapointe and Marie Natali. Stay tuned.
Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, Be informed today. Learn how at ready.gov.
Welcome back to Bergen Stages. Today we're going behind the scenes looking at A Man for All Seasons, the play coming up here at Bergen Community College. We've been talking with Tom O'Neill and L.J. Hickman, and now added to our stage here we have some designers who will be talking about what goes into the design element of putting on a show here at Bergen Community College. So welcome Marie Natali and Michael Lapointe, our costume designer and set designer. So just kind of going back to how we do this here at Bergen Community College. First we started with a concept meeting, which means 4 months ago we sat down with Tom and he kind of gave us his idea of the show, of the themes that he wanted to make sure were poignant and came out to the audience when we watched this particular show. So with that concept meeting, then you two had to go out and give that a lateral application. You had to make it a visual. So I will start with Set. What did you do with what Tom told you, and how are we going to be seeing that manifest itself?
First thing I did with what Tom told me was stress and angst and not sleep. It was initially to me rather esoteric. He said conviction and courage and conspiracy is our theme. So I said, okay, and then of course make that a set.
Right.
And
right.
So that kept me up a little bit, you know. But he was very helpful and had ideas, and we took the original set design from the script, looked at it, poured over it. It was very specific to the period, very architecturally specific, and we decided that we would do something less specific. There was also about 10 to 13 different locations.
Right, right.
We didn't want to slow the play down. It was already a long play. It's a lot of words. It's thoughtful play. We didn't want to slow that down with the constant movement of scenery, long
scene changes to get to each one of these different things. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So he wanted the idea of conspiracy, or the people around more who were aiming to get him, starting with Henry VIII and working down. So we made the set look like an area of we made the set look like it's a bit of a fluid maze, characterized by different locations that don't have to move or change, but that vis-a-vis light we could isolate. But there can be people creeping up from behind this platform or sneaking through that alleyway. Or there's a fluidity to it, but there's also a sort of dissonance to it. There's an uncertainty about it.
Right. Yeah. And it's what we call a unit set, meaning that we don't have to have all these different scene changes, but like you're saying, we have levels and underneath and above, and that
levels
can be isolated to these cool little areas. And I think we talked once at a meeting about he can't find a place to escape, so the lighting and everything just kind of makes it even harder to even exit from some of these levels, which I think is really kind of a cool idea that the audiences will be able to see.
Yeah, the levels that you just reminded me of, the levels of increasing danger and the levels of increasing claustrophobia as his fate draws near. We tried to reflect in the set.
Cool, great, and I think we will definitely see that. So, and then taking that, Marie had to go out and create some costumes that will go with this particular show. And I don't think you went this quite unit feeling for the costumes. You've done more realistic from the period, yeah?
Oh, absolutely, yes. And it's great revisiting this time in history. It really is, you know, just taking it from the medieval turning into the Tudor era Renaissance. And so we've come up with some great costumes, and we actually had great fortune because we went into New York City. I shop at this costume collection in New York, and they have costumes that are donated from the Metropolitan Opera, from Juilliard, from Broadway shows.
Right. For people that don't know, this is the TDF, the Theater Development Fund, has a costume collection, and the TDF people are the same people that have the TKTS booth and all that, but they get donated opera clothes from costumes from all these different shows.
And so at our concept meeting, you know, Tom had expressed, you know, what he felt each character should, you know, depict. And so they had this sale, this bag sale, before we even auditioned the show. And of course, I had to take advantage of it.
Right.
And so I went there, and that morning they had brought up a whole collection that had been donated from the Metropolitan Opera. Magnificent pieces. I mean,
From this period.
From this period, works of art that you will love it when you see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my assistant with me, and I just went like, oh my gosh, is this possible? And I mean, I was taking things off the rack. I mean, we're talking about, in this show, costuming dukes, you know, a king,
It was
chancellor.
thousands and thousands and thousands worth of dollars that we got for nothing. I mean, literally
basically
nothing.
for nothing. And I was just throwing them in the bag. And I had to laugh because when we had our following meeting where I come up with a storyboard and the looks that we're going for and the colors that we will be using and everything, and I had like this collection already, no bodies yet,
But you
no
had
actors.
the perfect costume. So
And I had them laid out on the table, and I showed them to Tom, and he just, it was really cute. He says, so what do you want me to do? Make sure that I cast someone that fits in that, you know, the king, the, you know, ambassador, Thomas More. And believe it or not, they fit them.
Ah,
It's just, I mean,
That's just
it's incredible.
unheard of, yeah.
And my assistant, because she's relatively new to this, she's like, I can't believe this. This is like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But we were very fortunate, and we have a gorgeous collection that belongs to us.
great. Yeah, they're ours. They're ours.
And they're
yeah. Oh,
ours.
that's just
So,
wonderful.
you know, so there are many beautiful headpieces. And then, you know, we're, as I said, with that period transition at that time into the Renaissance from medieval, that whole flavor. The great part is because of the, you know, the European, the influence of the French, the Italian, you know, the English, the arranged marriages among them. We have moved, at that point, moved from the more medieval look of the trumpet funnel sleeves to the more opulent sleeves of like King Henry VIII and the Tudor
he
period.
loved to dress. That man,
Yes.
Henry, he was very much about what he was wearing. So
Exactly.
and it showed in his
So-
court. His court liked to match what he was doing too.
Exactly. So we have a great collection, and I think everybody will be really excited when they see the costumes on Mike's stage.
Great. So
Set.
that brings me to my next. Is the two of you need to work together and talk? How does a costume and a set designer work together, Mike? What is the relationship there? What?
Well, it's an interesting question. I've worked with Marie as a director and as a set designer and as a carpenter in different roles. So there's been a trust that develops, you know, through the years, which is nice. So you can, in this relationship, particular, just relax and know that Marie's going to do something amazing.
Right.
But the conversation and the nuts and bolts of it is about color. And in this case in particular, the set doesn't reflect period, architectural styles of period as much, because it's more of well, we went a different direction. So Marie's costumes do that for us.
We'll do the color.
The color that
Right.
we lack in the set, that I like in the set, and the reinforcement of the decoration style of the period.
Yes,
Yeah.
the power of that period
power of
is
the period.
amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely, and so you're going more neutral with the set color, so that it will
Color-wise.
make this pop a little bit more. The colors that Marie
I think
has.
the
yeah.
costumes are going to.
Yeah, and then the lighting will take over from there. John Ehrenberg is our light designer for this show, and so he'll be doing the specific lighting on that. And some people don't realize how much that can be ruined by not having this great collaboration between all of you. Is the fact that the wrong color lights on your costume can turn a beautiful blue into an ugly brown costume, or a clash between the color of the set and the color of the costume can just bring the audience to tears.
Absolutely, that
Long
lighting
way.
is so major. You know, it just and the beautiful part is that they can actually change a gel enough to give more life to a costume. You know, dull it if they have
And the
to.
set, we talked
And the
about
set
that. Yeah,
too,
we
you
talked
know?
about just the way an angle of the light can show texture differently than another. So
Yeah.
that relationship between all our designers is so important. This collaboration is what makes it really work.
And fun.
Yeah, and fun,
Yeah.
and fun.
And in this particular show, that's going to be of utmost importance. The set and the lighting you know, the costumes obviously, but the way they're all staged.
Yeah.
Everything is
Our
staged.
audience is really going to see how this all
Exactly,
it is.
right.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
so.
totally. So where are we? Where are you now? What's going to happen now? We've got a few weeks before we open. At this point, so what are you up to?
You name it. Putting the levels up. The masking is everything.
Crew is all coming in.
Yeah,
And,
it's going to be a mad
building.
dash.
Yeah. And in our larger theater, a lot of people don't realize that we only have a very limited time in there because of these road shows that come in, these one-night performers that come in, and also with guest speakers coming in. So you are on compared to our lab theater, which we have the luxury of allowing it to morph itself into a finished design. You have to come in ready with everything and then throw it up on the stage in a couple of weeks.
That's it.
So you're at the prep in the shop, prep time.
Prep in the shop, and then be ready, like you said, be ready once we get the stage free to just make it happen in there. And with the last play extended a little bit,
Right.
We're using some scenery from that other theater. So we've been waiting
So we need
on
to
it.
wait to get that in here. And now what are you up to, Marie? What are we now coming into these final?
Well, basically alterations, getting everything to fit everyone, and the headpieces, accessorizing, and this is a big accessory show because you have all of these religious garb and ceremonial robes, and they all need to be accessorized. And you know, there was the chain of who was of importance, greater importance, and also then we have some of the more peasant roles in the play as well, you know.
So you're just touching up all these
exactly,
these pieces
you know,
there, and getting them. They'll have to get on that set and start working on it. We were talking in the green room before all this, Michael, that they need to get used to being in these long robes, walking up steps, and all these levels that you have made. It's going to have to be. The actors need to start working on that. And
In fact, we've had to widen some of the pathways to accommodate people in huge costumes.
I know that it's interesting, but that's why they get rehearsal clothes. I give them immediately, although they haven't had a chance to work on levels yet, but at least knowing that they're working, walking in something long, which no one is accustomed to, and so it's going to be, you know, a challenge for them. But they'll find out once they start going on the levels how to work their costume. That's just something an actor has to learn to do.
And it can be dangerous too. I mean, if they don't rehearse and work, they can going up a step and having a dress or a robe underneath your foot can make you.
And that's why early on it's
meet
important.
the floor very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's important early on that they are working, and particularly the men, because they're not accustomed to wearing something floor length.
Right.
You know, and so be interesting to see how.
And I said earlier how fun it is to watch a little bit of rehearsal going on now and see them all in these rehearsal robes, and it looks like you know, such a strange toga party going on the stage. So it's kind of fun. And at this point, the stage is just taped out, so they know where the levels are, but they're not on the level, so they're
It's spaced but not extruded.
So now their imagination has to see that's where they're going to be real soon. I think we're talking days now that we're going to have set up there. Cool. Well, great. Just to wrap this up, just to thank you guys, we also have Patrick Ryan doing our sound. And so the sound plays an important role in this as well. Music, Henry composed his own music, so I know that he loved music, so there'll be the period kind of music going on. Stephanie Howard's working on props and set work very closely together as well, right?
Yeah, and we got to make sure that we're all on the same page, specifically, as Maria was talking about, the specifics of the period. The styles, things like chairs and knives and cups and bottles, and that's
those
the
simple
fun
things,
too,
but they're not
research.
plastic. You know, they're pewter, and they're things that you just need to take the time and realize what parchment and the pen is a quill
Parchment,
pen.
right?
Right.
How do they write?
Yeah, these certain things.
It's a great exploration into history when you get a chance to do this kind of a play.
And it's great to teach our students this, and what better mentors than to have the two of you there for them in the shop. So all our students get the opportunity to work with Mike and with Marie in the shops. They do crew hours, and they put in and help them with putting up all our productions here. So I want to thank you both so much for being here. It goes by so quickly, and there's so much to talk about. But I think the best thing now is for our audience to come and see what we do here. So on the screen now is the information about the show, A Man For All Seasons, opening on December 2nd in our Anna Maria Saccone Theater. Guys, thank you so much again for coming.
It was a pleasure.
It sure was.
And we'll see you in the aisleways at the Saccone.
Okay,
Right.
terrific.
Thank you.